As we dive into the history of management, we must first recognize the seismic shifts that occurred during the 19th and 20th centuries. The world was changing, and with it, the very fabric of capitalism was evolving. Wealth was no longer just a matter of individual effort. It became concentrated in the hands of a few industrial titans. Names like John Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, DuPont, and Henry Ford became synonymous with power, shaping entire industries and, indeed, the economy itself. They were the architects of a new world, one where the rules of engagement in the workplace were about to be rewritten. Enter Frederick Winslow Taylor, a man whose ideas would forever alter the landscape of management. In 1911, he published The Principles of Scientific Management, a work that would enshrine a new philosophy of organizing labor and treating workers. Taylor's vision was clear: to maintain control over assets and maximize productivity in a rapidly industrializing world. His approach, often referred to as Taylorism, was revolutionary but also deeply controversial. Taylor's most famous experiment involved a Dutchman named Henry Knoll, whom he dubbed Schmidt, working at the Bethlehem Steelworks. Picture this: Schmidt was loading pig iron into railroad cars, and he was managing a measly average of 12.5 tons per day. But Taylor, with the precision of a scientist, observed that with the right methods, this could be dramatically improved. He concluded that each loader could handle between 47 and 48 tons daily. How? By timing every movement, instructing Schmidt on when to lift, walk, or rest, and incentivizing him with a pay increase from $1.15 to $1.85 per day. The result: a significant boost in productivity, and business owners everywhere rejoiced. Taylorism was born. Taylor's principles rested on three foundational premises. First, he believed that it was possible to know everything required to plan work effectively. Second, he argued for a strict separation between planners and doers. And third, he posited that there is but one right way to perform a task. This separation of planning and execution was radical. It suggested that workers were not capable of determining the best way to do their jobs. Instead, they were to follow the detailed instructions laid out by management. In Taylor's mind, the worker was often seen as either too uninformed or uninterested in maximizing their productivity. The solution: a manager would step in, dictating every detail of the work process. This approach transformed workers into cogs in a machine, expected to operate with the precision of automatons. The manager's role became one of designing systematic, predictable tasks, reducing the individuality of workers to mere commodities. No longer were they seen as people with unique skills and aspirations. They became interchangeable parts in a larger mechanism. Describing his methods with pride, Taylor stated that the work of every workman is fully planned out by management at least one day in advance. Each worker received detailed written instructions about their tasks. The impact of Taylor's work on capitalism was monumental. He contributed to the idea that a business operated like a machine, with inputs and gears that could be manipulated to control outputs. Workers, in this machine, had defined roles. They were expected to surrender their free will in exchange for the promise of security and a paycheck, with the hope of one day retiring comfortably. But let's pause here and consider the implications of this system. While it did offer some benefits, such as increased productivity and the ability to afford homes and cars, it also entrenched a hierarchy where wealth dictated power. Workers were left with a sense of limitation. The ambition and drive that once fueled the American dream were stifled by a system that rewarded compliance over creativity. The prevailing mindset became one of survival. I'm here to work my schedule, clock out, and go home, or what do I need to do not to get fired? As we moved into the latter half of the 20th century, Taylor's influence continued to resonate. His work was credited with the productivity gains of the era, and his principles became embedded in management practices. The factory owner dictated tasks, and workers complied. It was a straightforward arrangement, but one that began to show cracks as the world evolved. By the 1980s, voices emerged suggesting that perhaps Taylorism was outdated. The view of organizations was shifting. They were no longer seen as mere machines, but as living organisms, filled with individuals who possess brains, hands, and legs, not just bodies to fill roles. The shortcomings of Taylorism became increasingly apparent. Managers often lacked the resources or technical understanding to dictate how work was done, especially as work complexity grew. The dynamic nature of modern business required specialist skills and expertise, and the very essence of work was changing. The system dehumanized the workforce, disregarding the fundamental human need for autonomy, growth, and engagement. Workers were discouraged from taking initiative or experimenting, leading to a disengaged and disheartened workforce. The rise of middle management created barriers between organizational goals and the workers tasked with achieving them. Poor communication and misalignment became commonplace. In essence, Taylorism reduced work to a transaction. Workers sold their time and presence for money, not their minds, souls, or commitment. This transactional relationship left a void where passion and creativity should thrive. Fast forward to today, and we find ourselves in a vastly different landscape. The nature of work has transformed dramatically over the past century. The digital revolution has ushered in a new era where computers are ubiquitous, and the economy is increasingly service-oriented. Globalization has accelerated change, and work can now be done from anywhere. Workers are more educated and skilled than ever before, and the demand for knowledge and expertise has skyrocketed. Yet, despite these changes, the management of organizations has often remained stagnant. Workers are no longer seen as mere commodities, they are now recognized as a company's most valuable assets. The shift from producing goods to providing services necessitates a new approach to management, one that incorporates autonomy, creativity, and collaboration. Organizations today face immense pressure to achieve more, move faster, and adapt quickly to changing circumstances. The question we must ask ourselves is, what will replace Taylorism? To truly maximize human potential, we need a management system that acknowledges and nurtures the whole person: body, spirit, intellect, and skills. We need a system that recognizes the intrinsic human desires for community, growth, security, engagement, and opportunity. It's time to shift our focus from relentless efficiency to meaningful engagement. We must value what work feels like, not just what it produces. A new paradigm is emerging, one that prioritizes the well-being and fulfillment of workers alongside organizational objectives. Imagine a workplace where employees feel like owners, where their voices are heard, and their contributions valued. A system where collaboration and innovation thrive, where workers are empowered to take initiative and drive change. This is the future we should aspire to, a future where management is not about control but about fostering an environment where everyone can flourish. As we reflect on the legacy of Taylorism, we must recognize its limitations and the need for a new approach to management. The world has changed, workers have changed, and it's time for management practices to evolve accordingly. Let's embrace this opportunity to create a more human-centered approach to work, one that recognizes the value of each individual and the power of collaboration. The future of work is not just about productivity, it's about creating a meaningful and fulfilling experience for all.